micro BeastX tuning guide. Tuning the flight barless system is going to be very important because it's your second step after the bench setup. That way you can get all the flying characteristics out of the system that you wish. For the video, we'll be using this model here. It's the Gowie X FBL model. We're using a Spectrum DX8 radio and of course the BeastX. Now I'm going to be using the AR7200BX system. So I'm running just satellites. Now if you're running the BeastX, which is the orange version, you'll have a separate receiver. But the methods we're going to cover here are going to be exactly the same. So let's go ahead and get the heli powered up and we will get started. Alrighty guys, so the first thing we're going to do before we actually begin to fly is we want to do our pre-flight checks. And this is a good place to catch any mistakes you might have made during the initial setup. So I've already went ahead and powered up the heli. One thing you might want to make sure you do is put it in throttle hold. That way it doesn't spool up on you when you move your sticks around, okay? But so coming down here, first thing we want to check is that obviously controls are working. Cyclic up, collective up and collective down. Cyclic's going to go forward elevator, backwards elevator, right and left. Make sure that that is correct. And then also the swash plate correcting directions. We're going to look at the swash, and when we tilt forward, it should move back. Backwards, it should move forwards. Right, it should move left. And left, it should move right, okay? Make sure you don't overlook those steps there. And as always, guys, you know, pull on parts. Make sure there's no play, no unwanted play or anything like that. And then moving down to the tail, we want to also make sure that our tail is indeed set up correctly as well. So with this style, obviously, we want to make sure that our limits and everything are set up. There's no binding on the rudder. Right now we're in rate mode, so the tail centers every time. So when you kick it up into heading hold mode, we want to make sure that it's sensing in the right direction, or counterbalancing, if you will. So if I were to give it left rudder, our nose is now moving to the left. That slider should start moving to the right automatically by itself. Make sure that that is indeed correct as well. And if it is, basically that's going to be all for the pre-flight checks. Now to talk real quick about pre-flight setups. Right now I'm running about 32% for the gyro gain for the rudder, and that's going to be coming from our radio's gyro gain pot. And then dial knob number 1 on the BeastX, which is for overall gain for the swash plate, we're at 50%, which is factory setting. We're going to test it there, see what kind of results we get, and then we can make our changes as far as gains go. And then other than that, that's really all we need for the test flight. So let's spool it up and let's start making some adjustments. Alrighty guys, so now real quick before we spool up and we start flying, as far as tuning a flight barless system goes, what we want to look for is setting adjustments at the highest head speed possible. So as we talked about before, as far as your initial setup goes, you should know what your normal, idle 1, and in some cases idle 2 if you're using a radio that allows different flight modes. What we're going to do is we're going to take it up in normal first, of course, and see how everything feels. But before we make too drastic of settings, we need to get it up into the highest head speed, so 1 or 2, and see how the system responds from there, because that's where we're going to make our adjustments from. Your 3D mode or highest head speed is going to put the most amount of stress on the machine, so we need to know if the gyros are going to be able to handle that kind of head speed. So don't make adjustments for normal, make them for your highest head speed possible, but initial test flight, normal mode, we want to see how everything's reacting, make sure the tail's not freaking out or the cyclic feels good, and then we'll start to proceed from there. Alrighty guys, so we are going to get ready to lift off. Once again, we're in normal. Heading hold mode's 32% for the gyro gain, and we're 50% for the swash plate gain off the dial of the BeastX. And we're just going to kind of lift it up and we're going to kind of see how everything feels. Now when you're doing this, guys, be careful, you know, if it lifts off and anything strange happens, land it immediately and troubleshoot, but if it feels nice and stable, kind of see how the system feels, okay? So we're going to go ahead and lift off here. And just keep it nice and low based upon your comfort level, of course. Everything feels pretty good for me. Now obviously you want to kind of look at the tail and the swash plate simultaneously. See how your tail lock feels and also see how the heli feels locking swash plate wise. If the heli wants to do this kind of thing or drift or pull, land it and increase dial 1. If the heli's shaking like this, I'll try to simulate an oscillation, something like that, you would land it and decrease dial 1 because your gain is too high, okay? Now looking at the tail, we want to make sure that our tail is locking appropriately as well. And so right now the tail feels really solid, so obviously my gain isn't too high. If the tail is wagging back and forth really violently, then your gain is too high, decrease it in the radio. But if it's kind of doing one of these little things here, like a side-to-side wag, your gain can probably go up a little bit. So that's what you want to look for the tail. Now remember, we're in normal, so we don't want to get too heavy on the adjustments. And then also we want to check pirouetting, but what I'm going to do is get it up into idle 1 here, higher head speed, check the tail, see how everything feels, also check the swash, everything feels pretty stable. Now let's get it up into, I've got an idle 2, so here we go, idle 2, highest head speed, tail feels really locked in. So now we want to check pirouetting. Everything feels good pirouetting wise. Now you're looking for your stopping, so if I do a piro, and I stop. See how it stops almost on a dime? If it doesn't, if it stops and kind of does like a bounce like that, dial 3 needs to be increased. If I do a piro and it stops and keeps going, dial 3 needs to be decreased. That's your tail dynamics. So once your tail feels good, now we're going to do a climb out test and see how it feels when we do punch outs. What we're looking for is for this tail to stay solid when we go up and when we go down. It shouldn't want to kick out. If it does, increase your radio's gyro gain just a little bit. So here we go, idle 2, we're going to do a full climb out test, and then a downwards thrust as well. And that feels pretty good. It feels really locked in. And always pay attention to the swash as well, guys. You know, you've got that swash plate gain. Dial 1 on the Beast X. You know, if that starts to act weird or do anything strange, make your adjustments accordingly. So now let's do a piro climb out and see how the tail holds under maximum stress. So we're gonna piro as we climb up, and then we're also gonna piro as we climb down. So here we go. She seems to be really locked. So that all feels really good, and that's essentially the way you'll want to do your initial test flight. So now let's go ahead and let's talk about how to tune the way the Cyclic feels and also fine-tune the tail just a little bit. Alrighty guys, so we've done the initial test flight, idle up to highest head speed. We got our tail locked by adjusting radio gyro gain. Also the Cyclic feels really stable by adjusting dial number 1 on the Beast X to eliminate drifting and also oscillation. And so all that feels really good. So now what we want to do is we want to start paying attention to how does the Cyclic feel. Is it too sensitive? Is it not sensitive enough? And then also the tail stopping consistency, which we briefly touched on the initial setup, which is dial number 3. But what we're going to focus on right now is dial number 2 on the Beast X. This is called your Cyclic feed forward. Now what this is going to adjust is the consistency of your Cyclic travel between aileron, elevator, when you're doing 3D, front flips, back flips, TikToks. There can be inconsistencies at some times, so you want to really pay attention to this dial because we're not aiming for speeding it up as much as we are getting it consistent and then speeding it up from there. So what we'll do for this demonstration is we'll do a little bit of 3D flying, maybe going into some like TikToks, for example. Now if we go into a TikTok and let's say I go in and it wants to lag a little bit and then jump back out, that would mean our Cyclic feed forward is actually up too high. That's dial number 2. Now if we go into a TikTok and it just feels like you're really disconnected from the machine, you're giving input and it feels like you're lagging behind, you can increase dial number 2 to get a more direct feel. Be really careful with this setting, guys, because dial number 2 does not affect how fast the swash plate travels or your overall Cyclic feel. It just eliminates the inconsistencies in between. So let's check that first, and then we'll talk about how to speed up or slower the actual feel of the Cyclic. Alrighty guys, so we're going to get it spooled up here. If we did everything correctly in that first go about here, we should have everything ready to lift off. So go ahead and get the heli up into the air. Now let's get into our idle up 2 or 1, whatever one you've got selected, and let's kind of play around with some 3D flying and see how that Cyclic feed forward feels. Okay, let's give it just a nice easy rollover. And that actually felt pretty instantaneous for me. Let's give it a front flip here. It feels pretty good. Check those hard stops. So overall, I actually think mine feels good. I'm not noticing any lagging or anything like that. TikToks feel really, really good, actually. I'm actually really impressed so far with that. Sorry guys, I'm trying to fly and talk at the same time here. So cyclic feed forward wise, mine actually feels really decent. I don't think I need to adjust mine, and very rarely should you have to. I mean, obviously the setting can change between different machines and sizes. So let's go ahead now and we'll talk about what to do if your cyclic doesn't feel fast enough. Like if your rolls feel really slow, or if you feel like there's any other adjustments that need to be made there. Alrighty guys, so now we've played around with the cyclic feed forward before we adjusted stick sensitivities. This is important because we don't want to amp up our stick sensitivity and have that cyclic feed forward be either low or too high, because then we're going to get the opposite readouts that we want. So now, if our flips and our rolls or our hurricanes or whatever tricks we're doing feels a little bit too much or not enough, we can now adjust our cyclic sensitivities in parameter A, which is going to be the solid light on the Beast X. You'll hold the button down and release it. You've got two menus at the bottom, menu G, which is going to be for your cyclic speed, and menu H, which is called, I think it's labeled pitch boost, but essentially your pitch sensitivity. You've got a wide variety of options from basically lowest as possible, mid-range being sensitive, and high range being very sensitive. I caution you, before you guys use these to the high sensitivity area, go one step at a time and see how each one feels. But for example, we go into a front flip or a side flip or a TikTok, and we're giving it full pitch forward, full elevator forward, and it wants to roll really slow. You can probably land it, go into menu G in parameter A, and start to bump that up one setting at a time until your flips and rolls feel as good as they want. Now make sure you're in your highest head speed possible when you do this, that way you know the limits of the heli. Now the pitch boost one is a little bit different. That's going to give you quicker and snappier stops. But it's also going to draw more amperage from the servos and the main battery pack or the BEC pack, depending upon what you're using. So this one I usually keep one setting behind cyclic. If cyclic's at very sensitive, then pitch boost is at just sensitive, and so forth. But play around with these. TikToks really help you determine menu H, whereas flips, rolls, things like that, hurricanes help you determine menu G. So let's play around with that for a minute. Let's see how it feels. We'll make some adjustments, and then basically after that, your fine-tuning should be complete. Mixing all those different options should allow you to set up the Beast X the way you want it to feel. Alrighty guys, so let's go ahead and let's get ready. Let's take a look at menus G and H for the actual overall cyclic speed. You know, you guys, like I said, get it up into idle too. We want to make sure that we're getting it at the highest head speed possible. So here we go, here's one. Here's two. And then let's just do kind of some flips here. Let's see how everything feels. That feels pretty, I mean, to me it feels like it flips and rolls really well. But if you're not getting that effect on yours, you can increase that menu. For menu H, what I usually just say is do really hard pitch maneuvers. See how the heli stops when you give really hard collective. And mine seems to stop really well. So I actually think mine are both on actually all the way sensitivity wise. So I'm getting a really torquey feeling heli. But if you want to dull it down, if you're not a 3D pilot, you can. See how the TikToks feel. TikToks feel exceptionally well. So overall guys, that's really the last step of programming the Beast X system. From there, you can really just play around with all these different menus, fine-tune the heli to your liking, and you guys should be able to now enjoy the Beast X system. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this was useful, and remember, if Freddy can fly, so can you.